Again, this thing that I'm about to show you is truly so shocking. I don't even know where to begin, and I'm not exaggerating. I wish I was exaggerating. This is unbelievable. So Dan Cohen posted this. He said, Ukraine 24 presenter goes full Nazi, endorses Adolf Eichmann to call for genocide of Russians. Look at this clip. This is from Ukraine 24, a TV network that's owned by a Ukrainian oligarch, Akhmetov. And this is the presenter or journalist Farudin Sharafmal. Take a look.
Я знаю, що як журналіст я маю бути об'єктивним, маю бути виваженим для того, щоб повідомляти вам інформацію з холодним серцем, але направду триматися зараз дуже важко, особливо в такий час. І якраз уже нас на Росії називають нацистами, фашистами і так далі, я дозволю собі зацитувати слова Адольфа Ейхмана, який сказав, що для того, щоб знищити націю, потрібно нищити в першу чергу дітей. Тому що, вбиваючи їхніх батьків, діти виростуть і обов'язково помстяться. Вбиваючи дітей, вони ніколи не виростуть, і нація зникне. Як Збройні сили України не можуть нищити російських дітей, тому що це заборонено правилами війни, і це заборонено різними конвенціями, в тому числі Женевськими. Але я не зі Збройних сил України. І коли мені випаде нагода розправитися з росіянами, я обов'язково це зроблю. Я дотримуюсь, раз ви вже називаєте нацистами, дотримуюсь доктрини Адольфа Ейхмана і зроблю все, що від мене залежить, для того, щоб ні ви, ні ваші діти ніколи не жили на цій землі. Для того, щоб ви відчули, як воно, коли вмирають ні в чому не винні цивільні люди. Для того, щоб ви відчули весь біль і страждання, коли ви говорите, а ми не починали війни. Це все Путін. Ми не хотіли цієї війни. Ми теж її не хотіли. Але тепер ви мусите розуміти, що тут йдеться про перемогу українського народу, а не мир. Нам потрібна перемога. І якщо для цього доведеться вирізати всі ваші сім'ї, я буду одним із перших, хто це зробить. Слава нації! І сподіваємось, що такої нації, як Росія і росіяни, ніколи більше не залишиться на цій землі. Тому що це просто виродки, які засмічують цю землю. І якщо в українців є можливість, що вони зараз в принципі роблять, трощити, різати, вбивати, душити москальноту, я сподіваюся, що кожен внесе свій вклад і замочить хоча б одного москаля.
I'm stunned, honestly. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. Just straight up, you know, like balls to the wall, you know, full Nazi, quoting Adolf Eichmann. Do you guys know who Adolf Eichmann is? You can probably tell from the quote, he's not a very civilized or fine human being. Quite the contrary. Adolf Eichmann was a senior Nazi official, one of the architects of the Holocaust, the Endlösung, which is the final solution. This is when they had the Wannsee Conference in 1942. The Nazis got together, the high-ranking Nazis. Adolf Eichmann is one of them, and they came up with the idea to kill all the Jews within their reach, right? So this was really he's just, as I said, an architect of the Holocaust. And as a result, how many Jews died? We were talking about this just the other day. Poland suffered, one of the worst. Poland suffered more than many. 90% of the Jews in Poland were killed in the Holocaust. 2/3 of the Jews in Europe massacred. You know, I went to school with people who lost their family in the Holocaust. You know, some of my best friends. And this guy is quoting Adolf Eichmann, this piece of garbage over here, this Nazi scumbag who you see he has the death's head, the Totenkopf on his head. I mean, really, under what circumstances does it make sense to quote this person? And you think you're smart calling for genocide on television? I mean, any sort of sympathy that people have with you. And again, we should all have sympathy for the Ukrainian civilians everywhere. They are the real casualties of the war. But like any sympathy that you had for this guy is gone right out the window when he starts saying that they should commit genocide against Russians. how does that make you any better then? You're saying that the Russians are that bad. You want to do something even worse? You're saying that you want to kill their children and wipe Russia off the map? I mean, this is exactly what the Nazis said, right? They saw the Jews, the Slavic people, gypsies, they saw them as subhuman. That's why they killed most of the Russian prisoners of war with death marches. They starved them to death because they viewed them as subhuman. And he sounds exactly like a Nazi. He's literally quoting a Nazi. And Eichmann, he escaped to Latin America. But the Israelis actually captured him, the Mossad, and they brought him to Israel and tried him, and for obviously for his role in the Holocaust, and hanged him, I believe, right? They gave him a death sentence, but that's normal. All the others in Nuremberg, most of them were given a death sentence and hanged, which is Goering, for example, the head of the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. He was not just the head of the Luftwaffe, he was obviously very complicit in the rise of the Nazis, in their racist policies, in the genocide, and a lot of the crimes they did. And he asked for a soldier's death, meaning a firing squad, and they denied him that request because you're a war criminal. The Nuremberg trials were for crimes against humanity, and they hanged everyone that was given a death sentence. There was no shooting, no firing squad, because they wouldn't even give them that little bit of dignity. And that's why Goering, he took a suicide capsule and killed himself like a coward, like the vermin that he is. Really, I mean, these Nazis have committed some of the biggest atrocities. I don't need to tell you all of this, but I have to say it again and put it into context, because we have an issue here where the mainstream media are saying that, the war in Ukraine, it's strictly Ukraine defending its democracy, and there are Russians attacking them and invading them. Not all of Ukrainians are neo-Nazis, but there are some of them, a tiny, tiny minority, who are neo-Nazis, like the Azov Battalion, C-14, Right Sector, and many others. And they yield, they wield more power than the rest of the Ukrainian National Guard. So when you come here and say, and you dismiss like, oh yeah, there are no neo-Nazis in Ukraine, this is just a Kremlin talking point. Can you please explain this clip to me where this guy is on television and saying like, and quoting Adolf Eichmann? What the fuck? And never mind the quote, look what he said, he's agreeing with it. He's like, since you call me a Nazi, I adhere to the doctrine of Adolf Eichmann. You adhere to that doctrine without anyone needing to call you a Nazi, because you believe in that shit and you just revealed yourself and exposed your true colors. Do you think we're fucking stupid or something? I mean, unbelievable. Every single day, there's like the deputy mayor of Mariupol is praising the neo-Nazi Azov battalion on MSNBC. I showed you the clip yesterday. And then there was another mayor in Ukraine with a portrait of Stepan Bandera, who was he participated in the Holocaust in Ukraine and killed Poles and Jews. And he was a Nazi collaborator, and he has a portrait of him on the wall, and PBS just does an interview with him, and not a word, right? And the groups that are dominating the landscape here in terms of, the most important groups on the battlefield, these neo-Nazi groups, they act like they don't exist, and they say it's a myth. Every single day there's something new to show that it's not a myth. It is real. They just don't want you to know it. My goodness. And let me show you this tweet underneath from Dan Zelensky. He says that, Dan Cohen. He said that Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, closed down opposition media and left this outlet, the one that I just showed you, this Ukraine 24. He left this outlet, which is owned by the richest man in Ukraine, free to spew Nazi propaganda. Wow, I wonder why. And then you hear things like, well, it's not possible that there are Nazis in Ukraine because President Zelensky is Jewish. Did you not just see the clip that I played to you? You're gonna act like these Nazis don't exist? Are you? I mean, I'm sick of this. I'm really sick of this. Even the Israelis are sending weapons to these neo-Nazis. Look at this article from Haaretz, which is an Israeli newspaper. They say rights groups demand Israel stop arming neo-Nazis in Ukraine. Human rights activists petition the court to cease Israeli arms exports to Ukraine since some of these weapons reach neo-Nazi elements in Ukraine's security forces. That's the Azov battalion, the Volksangel symbol behind them, which again is a Nazi symbol, or at least it was co-opted by them. And so This is in 2018. Right now, you're not allowed to say this stuff. This is faux pas. You can't say this because it's an inconvenient truth. It's like when you bring up the fact that a lot of the moderate rebels in Syria are Al-Qaeda, right? And as a matter of fact, in Syria, it's way worse. I'd say the proportion is the majority of them are extremists. In any case, regardless, the point, it's the principle that they're funding and financing and sending weapons to these guys is unreal. And when you say, oh, well, Ukraine can't have neo-Nazis because the president is Jewish, well, Israel, which is the self-proclaimed, which calls itself the Jewish state, is sending weapons which end up in the hands. They know they end up in the hands of neo-Nazis. So I don't know what kind of argument you're trying to make here that doesn't magically erase the fact that these guys exist. I mean, this is really extreme. Like until now, that was like it was more or less subtle. Not that subtle. Again, these Nazis are proudly wearing their insignia. They have this Wolfsangel and they have the Schwarze Sonne, the black sun. But this guy, this one that I just showed you here, this guy who's calling for genocide against Russians, I mean, he's just like, straight up. Look what he's saying. Kill the children, and then he's saying that I will ensure. Look at that. I mean, just read that. Seriously. Can you see what he's saying here? Again.
Я дотримуюсь доктрини Адольфа Ейхмана і зроблю все, що від мене залежить, для того, щоб ні ви, ні ваші діти ніколи не жили на цій землі. Для того, щоб ви відчули, як воно, коли вмирають ні в чому не винні цивільні люди. Для того, щоб...
Wow, I am speechless. I don't even know what to say. I mean, what do you guys think of this? Honestly, like what... if you're trying to tell me that there are... I mean, the people who are trying to tell us that there is no Nazi issue in Ukraine, how do you explain this? If there was any sort of like benefit of the doubt that you wanted to give someone, that just went out the window. And even this guy, you want to have empathy with someone who's sad that they're seeing their country bombed or there's refugees. I get it. I'm upset by seeing that, and I'm upset because it happened in Syria. It's very upsetting. But you just go full Nazi and start quoting Eichmann and saying you want to commit what is wrong with you? You just made anybody who had sympathy for you lose it. Obviously not in general, but I'm talking specifically this guy who's speaking. You shouldn't lose your sympathy for Ukrainian civilians because of one idiot. Obviously not. But you get what I'm saying, right? Figuratively speaking, it's like you listen to this guy and you just forget what he was saying in the beginning because now you're just outraged and stunned by this open calling for genocide. My goodness. I see someone underneath posted an article, a headline that reads, "The pain of loss spoke to me. The host of Channel 24 apologized for harsh statements about the Russians." But I've been trying to find the article with this headline, and I can't find anything, so I don't know if this is real. I don't know if he actually apologized. But I like how they say harsh statements. That wasn't harsh statements. He was saying that Russia should be wiped off the map. I feel like, that's a bit more than harsh statements. Calling for genocide is exactly what it sounds like, calling for genocide. It's not harsh. It's calling for genocide. Which is a war crime and a crime against humanity. I mean, do I have to explain this? Even the worst terrorists, like let's say Bin Laden, even he didn't say like, oh, we should kill American children for their bases in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, Al-Qaeda and Bin Laden did say that American civilians should be targeted because the idea was that, well, it's democracy and they voted for these leaders who then come and bomb us. But he didn't say like we should wipe the United States off the map and commit genocide against their children and butcher them. I mean, like just like if you're spouting bigger shit than a fucking mass murdering terrorist like Bin Laden, I'm really wondering what's going on here. Like you really got some weird life choices, to put it extremely, extremely mildly. My goodness, I have nothing else to say. That clip speaks for itself. And if he did apologize, which again, I can't verify, if he did apologize, it's probably because there was a lot of backlash. I don't think he meant it. Just the other day, they were making fun of this Fox News cameraman who got killed. And it's it's like with liberals a lot of the time they only apologize because there's a lot of outrage, not because they have rejected the belief or what they were saying. So I mean that guy meant it. He really meant it. You won't see the Western press cover that. They won't tell you this stuff because they'll let the cat out the bag about what's happening. Again, not everyone in Ukraine is a neo-Nazi. Obviously, the majority are obviously not, but the tiny minority have media presence. They have brutes on the ground. They are a very potent fighting force, and they are not a joke. They are intimidating and powerful, and wield large influence, great power. This is, again, one of those lies they want to bury. It's like with Syria. They don't want you to know that they've been supporting Al-Qaeda. They don't want you to know about the Contras, the death squads in Nicaragua. They don't want you to know about who created Al-Qaeda in the first place in Afghanistan and Pakistan. This is who the CIA gets in bed with. They know this. They know exactly what they're doing. The United States has been aware of this nationalist element, the far-right neo-Nazis in Ukraine since just after World War II, in the immediate aftermath. So, for some people hearing about this now, this might be news, but I can assure you it's not news for the U.S. government. They know about this. They even helped Stepan Bandera, that Nazi collaborator, to hide, right? They helped many of these neo-Nazis. They're not neo-Nazis. They were Nazi collaborators. They actually collaborated with the Nazis in World War II, in the Holocaust. And, the Americans helped a lot of them escape justice from the Russians.